You're listening to Following On with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. Right, let's get into it, Harmy. I don't know whether history will judge today as being a keynote day or a watershed moment in English cricket, but Richard Gould and Rob Key, the chief executive and manager of England men's cricket, fronted up to the media today to reveal their findings and their decisions into the review of the disastrous Ashes campaign. You and I weren't there, but we have been following proceedings very closely, and we will hear from Gould and Key during the course of this program. Thing that struck me is they were very authentic. I mean, it's all very well to mock PowerPoint displays, but I think they dealt with issues head on. They didn't, go into the nitty gritty. They didn't. No one said we shouldn't have gone to Noosa, but they did deal with. They answered the hard questions, but they did admit that their mistakes were made, and they have put together a plan which may or may not constitute a change of direction, but they certainly are hoping it's a change of results.
Yeah, hopefully it's a change of results. I would have gone to Noosa, but I'm not sure I'd have stayed too much at Lilac Hill. I think that's the way a lot of people will look at what has been a difficult 6 months for Rob and for Brendon and for the two Richards at the top. There was a lot in that. What Rob Key and Richard Gould had to say. I enjoyed what they were saying. You're right, very authentic. I think what I'm hoping I see change is that there's a little bit more accountability on what happens if things aren't going as well. I don't want England to lose the first test match and everybody to go, Key and McCullum have got to go. We made this decision now. I actually want to see the end of this film. I want to see McCullum finish in September at the Oval, either won the Ashes or lost the Ashes, because I'm probably the most vocal and critical that he should lose his job. I can't believe, after what's happened over the course of this last isolated 6 months, that I think somebody's been able to everybody be able to keep their jobs over it. But that's gone now, and it's about England supporters, hopefully, turning the corner, getting things in the right place. I worry about one or two things, which I'm sure we'll come on to, but I think what we've got now is we asked for something different in Rob Key when he first came in, and I think we've got it. We asked for something different in Brendon McCullum. Now we're asking for a little bit of change. I think Rob Key can potentially change and bring people in around him who can, from a selection point of view, from an advice point of view. Has Brendon McCullum got it in him to change an environment? Because I think that's what people are asking for. Because there's a couple of things in there that when what we'll listen to is about the Ashes and about the World Cup. And I think there's something I want to bring up.
Okay, well, let's hear now from Rob Key. He was speaking one-on-one with our boss, talkSPORT cricket producer John Norman.
So the big question, Rob, you and Harmy okay? You're still exchanging WhatsApp messages?
No, I rang Harmy to speak to him about some of the things he was saying and just to ask, why he was saying them at times. And a lot of the time, Steve's very fair in what he says. And 3 hours later, we got off the phone and that was that, really. But I feel like we're still on decent terms.
Have you been stung by, not just Harmy, but there's so much attention on the Ashes, as you knew there was always going to be. And I know that Brendon says he doesn't read the press and he doesn't. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But you have been aware, you've read a lot, you've seen a lot. Has it? It's hurt, right?
Oh, it's you're trying not to sort of have perspectives, because I know there's a lot. This is an unbelievably privileged position to be in. But in terms of my career, like everything I've thought about, every waking moment has been about how can you win games of cricket for England? How can you try and help enhance English cricket? And when it doesn't go well, then it becomes really hard to take, along with all the scrutiny which is there, right? Like, I knew that's part of the gig, but it's been as tough a time as I think I've had in my career and life, really, for the last 3 months. And you feel helpless at times, because you just, when it doesn't go to plan, you're just sitting back and watching. I think I must have said, it's the hope that kills you with Luke Wright, probably every day of that test series, and we had our opportunities. That's the most frustrating thing, and we didn't take them, and that's what stings.
It's been a common theme with this England side, though, for a number of years, hasn't it? It's almost like They don't know when they've won a game of cricket. I mean, how do you change that?
I mean,
is that fair?
No, that's absolutely right. You look at the India series, you get to that point where you think we're there, we've done it, and then all of a sudden Siraj comes and bowls brilliantly, and you're just sitting there almost like just you freeze almost in the role that I'm in, just in disbelief. But that's the thing. That's where this is still a side, though, I believe. This is not the end of an era. Whoever's in these roles, to be honest with you, it's not the end of an era. You look at that bowling attack now, whether you look at where Harmy was when he started, where Andrew Flintoff was, where Simon Jones was, Matthew Hoggard, Jimmy Anderson, Stuart Broad, this bowling attack is at the start of its career. And we have got to try and take them forward to being world class. And those players themselves as well, they have the potential. They've got to be sitting there now going, right, I need to become world class. This is how I'm going to do it. And we'll help them along the way, along with the batting. We have so much talent. Sometimes I think the Bazball narrative is an excuse for players where they can go out there and it's like, oh no, but that's just, but no, there is never a time where we expect people just to go out there and throw their wicket away and get to 70 and chip one up in the air. This is now about, once you get in, you go on and you make it count. You go in there and you get 150, 200. That's your currency as a batter. And maybe we haven't been strong enough in the way that we've spoken about that in the dressing room, because you're constantly trying to find ways to get the best out of players under a huge amount of scrutiny. But that's the mission.
Of course, you're a proud man. It must have been a very painful process to essentially not reapply for your own job, but certainly explain how you were going to take it forward, your vision for the next couple of years or whatever. And the same for Brendon and Ben. So what changes are we going to see? How are things going to be any different come that first test against New Zealand throughout this year and all the way up to the Ashes next year?
Everything that we try and put in place is hopefully so people do see a side that we don't want players to necessarily, we don't want a completely different style and philosophy. We just want them to become smarter, more ruthless in the way they go about doing these things. There's so much around behind the scenes that we're going to try and do. We're trying to enhance the environment as much as you can. We've signed Troy Cooley, who Steve Harmison will know. I believe he is the best person for bowling. When we have an inexperienced bowling attack like we do at the moment, with bowlers at the start of their international careers, I believe we've managed to bring in the best person to do that. The person that helped create Flintoff, Harmison, Jones, probably one of England's best attacks. The same thing with Stark, Cummins, Hazelwood, and then with Bumrah and the like with India, where he's just been. So that's one of the things. You're trying to bring in people. Now, it's not a question of changing that environment, getting rid of people. It's about enhancing it. So you're trying to bring in people that will be able to offer insight, help to some of those younger batters, the likes of Jamie Smith, even Harry Brook, who's got to #1 in the world. You're trying to create a system that isn't reliant on just a coach and a captain, that can actually, when players go out of form, they get them back into form quicker. They get them ready for what's coming, which is not easy. International cricket's hard.
The culture was an issue at times, it appears. Certainly hearing from yourself and Richard Gould today, that's also an area that's going to be fine-tuned. So again, do you think there was a cultural problem within this setup? And if so, what changes and why have those changes been implemented, if not?
I think that the thing we're always wrestling with all the time is that these players are away for almost 12 months of the year. Harry Brook has been at home for 6 days this winter. So you're trying to find a way so they can escape, get away from something, especially an Ashes series, where the scrutiny, the intensity of it is so great. You're trying to get them away from it every now and again so they can just relax and think about something else. Now, you've got to make sure you're doing that in the right way, and at times they may not have done. But ultimately, you're trying to create an environment, or we tried to create an environment where players make the right decisions. They make the right decisions, what's best for them to perform later on. And actually, at times, if you've got to get to a point where these players are making the right decision. That's what we want to do. We don't want to be school teachers that are just telling them you can't do this, you can't do that. Then you end up with a problem the other end of it, where players burn out because of the constant pressure that they're under. So it's trying to find that balance. You don't want the pendulum to swing one way and the other. You need to find that ground in the middle that gets the best out of these players and their longevity as much as anything else, so they can perform over and over again at their best for England.
Last question, and it's just a short one, but is there what you've been through over this last couple of months, or 2 or 3 months, and of course the years that have gone into this, does that almost make you or give you more desire, not just to still be in this job for the Ashes here next year, but also the next one over in Australia in 4 years' time?
Oh, you just love the opportunity really to try and enhance things and try and win series, especially against Australia. And I think what happens in sport, you go through a really tough time, and in life and everything, it's the tough times that make you. And the decisions we make in sport is you get people to go through that experience where they're going to have learned so much. They're going to be hardened, they're going to be more ready for what's coming, whether a player or a coach. And what you do, you sack them with all of that experience, whereas actually now it's about, can you learn from all the hardship you've been through to go and take this further and make you an even better version of what you were before. Let's hope that's the case.
Okay, well, I've got 3 questions for you. The first is about McCullum. So I don't want to read too much into the silences, because obviously sometimes it's what people don't say that is more interesting and pertinent than what they do say. But there was a long pause. And I think that both men actually, which I thought was a sign that they were thinking about the question and not giving us blasé, cliched answers. But when John asked Rob, can Brendon change? There was a long pause, and he said, well, you have to be authentic to yourself and your way of doing things. So, red flag maybe to some people. I think it might be to you. So there's that point. Secondly, there's the specialist coaches, the issue of specialist coaches. Rob did say that Troy Cooley was the best man, and he appeared to be giving him credit for, the emergence of one of the great 4-man pace attacks outside of the West Indies in Hoggard, Harmison, Flintoff and Jones. So that was interesting. And the third point is, were you really on the phone for 3 hours?
No, not 3 hours. It was 2 hours. It was 1 hour 59 minutes. That's exactly how long the phone call was. It went a little bit for a telling off, and I don't mind saying what the start of it was. I mean, he was right. I mean, ECB were right to pick me up on what I said about Mark Wood, and it was a poor choice of words, and I apologised for using the word neglect. 2 good friends having a chat about all things from about minute 3, minute 4. It was all, everything was fine. I've got so much respect for that lad. I love the bloke to bits. I will not have too many bad words said about him unless it's in a constructive way, which is doing our jobs, which is his job and my job are completely different at this moment in time. And I back him to get it right, because I think, like I said before, I think he can change and potentially bringing in a Troy Cooley. He talks about this bowling unit, and that's the point I want to make. You mentioned there about a bowling unit. I'll get on to McCullum in a second. But the bowling unit, that Troy's coming in, Neil Killeen's done a fantastic job in building these bowlers into positions to play. Troy Cooley knows he's got a little bit more experience in Killer going forward. And he name-checked him, obviously, that 4-man attack that won in 2005. But you need a leader of the attack. You need a leader. And when he talked about myself coming in, Caddick was there. When Simon came in, Caddick and Gough were there. I first came in, Caddick and Gough were there. Hoggy came in, Caddick and Gough were there. They were established. We got established. We had played a lot of cricket with each other. We were a little bit more unique where we came in as a group. We came in that Jamaica Test match in 2004 as a group, and we built that group together. But what people don't realise is our leader of the attack in our basic solid point wasn't a fast bowler. He was a left-arm spin bowler, and he held us all together in Ashley Giles because he was the father figure that we had. He was our leader. We were doing the donkey work and doing all the hard yards and running in and bowling fast. But our leader was somebody who stood at mid-on and mid-off talking to us all the time. And I think what England have got some very, very good fast bowlers, but I still think they need a structure. And my structure would be this summer. I look at this summer and think, right, once the IPL's done, can we get Jofra Archer? And I would only play Jofra Archer in test matches and in ODIs for England until the end of September. This is what I would be saying if I was in charge, if I was in selection of that. Can we get him in to play 5 test matches out of 6 and then play 50 over games because we've got a World Cup in 2027 in South Africa. But only if we need them to play in the 50 over games. I'm not really that bothered. But we will build for the Ashes in 2027 with having Jofra Archer as our leader of the attack. He plays less cricket. We don't travel him around everywhere, and he plays the 5 test matches. And we build our bowling attack around our leader, because I think this is our problem. We haven't got somebody at the forefront to lead the attack.
Okay, they've got more questions about Rob Key, but we need to sort of bring Richard Gould into the discussion now. So let's hear from the Chief Executive, who was also speaking to John Norman.
The decision has been made to retain the services of Brendon McCullum and Rob Key. There, of course, is always some fallout after an Ashes defeat, and it was a particularly painful Ashes defeat. So the reasoning behind your decision, and of course Ben Stokes as well, staying as captain.
Yeah, it's been a very difficult winter with the Ashes, because there was so much expectation, anticipation. We thought that we would be able to go there and compete more strongly than we did, and we ended up losing 4-1. And we've learnt a lot of lessons along the way. Test cricket is the pinnacle in terms of the men's game, and the Ashes sits right on the top of that. And therefore, what we want to try and make sure that we can do is take the lessons, embed them within our systems. And we're very lucky to have Rob Key, Ben, Baz available, and having the desire to take us forward.
Can you explain to the talkSPORT listeners a little bit about the lessons that have been learnt and why they're being learnt now rather than before?
Yeah, I think the Ashes is a particularly unique challenge going to Australia. I don't think we'd won a single test there for the last 12, 13 years, and 15. So you can see the magnitude of that. And I think sometimes when you have changeover of players, coaches, you can end up sometimes losing lessons. And our determination is to ensure that we don't lose those lessons. We don't want to be making the same mistakes as we go forward, whether it's in terms of the culture, the planning that needs to go into it, or indeed the performance systems and processes. So, we're very fortunate that we've got a management team that we will be adding to with particular skills, but we've got a management team who are so determined to adapt, to learn, and frankly, look forward to 2027 when the Australians come back and allow us to get our revenge on them. There's a lot of determination there.
Is there a determination to change? I mean, you would have sat down and looked and spoke to Brendon. Is he going to change?
Everybody has to be authentic to the way that they lead their teams, and whether that's Ben, Baz, myself, or Rob Key, you always need to remain authentic in the way that you do things. But we also need to make sure that we can learn and adapt and evolve. And yes, I think during the Sri Lanka tour and the World Cup, we saw really good evidence of us being able to change the way that we do things. Not a complete U-turn on things, but to get other things, smaller elements right. Whether that's in the way that we try and manage in game, or we manage our people.
So Brendon will adapt and evolve, like everybody else.
Yeah, and you say that as if it's an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do, but there is a real determination there within the management team and also within the ECB. When you look at the journey that we've been on for the last 4 years, the Test team has done some amazing things. That cannot be forgotten. Just because we have a very serious road bump in Australia, that's no reason necessarily just to tear that all up, throw it away, and start again. We want to build on what we've been doing.
I can't speak for the county game, but you certainly worked within the county game for a number of years with great success. Do you feel a disconnect there with certain parts of the game? And do you think that is a bridge that also needs to be possibly just tinkered with, rebuilt a touch?
Yes, absolutely. I think we have at times left some parts of the county game behind in terms of the way that we have either talked or selected players, and that's never been done with any harmful intent. It's just an acknowledgement that sometimes the international game is played in a different fashion to domestic cricket, but the talent that is coming through the county systems is incredible at this particular time. The level of talent, young players that we've got coming through it's so rich, and we need to make sure that we can ensure that all counties feel involved in the journeys of the England team. We want everybody to feel positive when the England team does well, and so certainly we are redoubling our efforts with the county game, and I know that they'll meet us halfway.
And lastly, you mentioned about the priorities within cricket. You talked about Ashes and India. The Ashes 2027 is going to be next year. Is that an indication that this has now been parked in terms of results aren't necessarily so important over the next 12 months?
Winning is really important.
Right.
We know that winning is really important.
So we could revisit this situation if results don't go particularly well.
I worked in sport for a long time. We know that everything is discussed on an hourly or not daily basis, particularly within the media. But we look forward to a really good summer of Test cricket. We then head out to South Africa for a series before we've got the Ashes back here in 2027. We want to win all of our games.
That's the ECB Chief Executive Richard Gould speaking to our boss John Norman. Lots of interesting things there. Yeah, he did rather overuse the word learning, but just back to Rob Key, because Richard Gould mentioned it as well there, but it was a really interesting. Scott Taylor did a great interview with Gareth Batty, in which he I thought he spoke with typical Bats frankness about the county cricket being overlooked as a pathway to play for England. That was last week, and it was up on the YouTube on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. Really interesting, and it's been a source of massive frustration for you and I actually as well. I mean, you can't just be picking blokes because they use their left limb and they're 6'6", if they haven't done anything in county cricket.
Yeah, and I think what Bat said it brilliantly. Anthony McGrath said it to us. I mean, Alfonso Thomas talked about young Josh Hull.
And Rian Ahmed.
And Rian Ahmed. Rian Ahmed. I think there's quite a lot of county coaches have either got players back or had players around the England setup. And I talk about this informal approach, and they've either had to rebuild their players either with confidence or from a technical point of view or a load point of view. That's the problem sometimes. That load point of view is that when they come back towards the county game, they don't bowl enough. They don't feel as though they bowl enough overs, and they run the risk of getting injury. And I think that's the source of, I think, frustration from the county setup towards the England setup. I think from an England setup, and this is where Richard Gould and Rob Key talked about county cricket and wanting to sort of bridge the gap a little bit, get it basically all singing off the same hymn sheet. We've never had a county game and a Test game where everything's been rosy. It hasn't. Not in my lifetime, and probably not even in your lifetime, manners of covering cricket, where the England cricket team and the county game has ever been in sync. But I don't think it's been as far apart as where it is now, and I think that's the concerning bit. You talked about changes coming in from the county game. Where do these players play? Because some of the frustration I had last year was, well, the Test match summer was finished, and Zach Crawley never went back and played for Kent. At what point did Zach Crawley deserve not to go back and play any cricket in September at the back end of the season? And how is he going to get better by not playing going into an Ashes series? And the same with the amount of overs not bowled by some of our bowlers by the time they got to Lilac Hill. and they didn't play in the sort of county setup towards the back end of the summer. It just seems as though it's looked down upon.
You mentioned the word excess. It just seems to me, is it not just a matter of the utmost simplicity? It's just curb excess in every department. And you know, like England's record was so poor when McCullum took over and Ben Stokes took over in Test match cricket. They'd won 1 out of 17, and so their argument, I suppose, was there's no there's no point in just diluting things and tweaking things. It needs to be a complete revamp. But now it just seems, you know, Rob mentioned, I think he didn't specifically mention the Oval Test match, but, you know, he did say that England play an incredible cricket, and when you think they've got the job done, they bungle it. That was an excess, wasn't it? You know, Harry Brook played the most extraordinary innings to get close to the finish line, but then didn't curb the excess. If you want to go out for a couple of drinks, don't have too many. If you want to play golf, absolutely, but not on every day. Do you know what I mean? It's just, if you want to identify players who don't necessarily perform at county cricket because county cricket is played differently to international cricket, don't put all your eggs into one basket. Don't try and pick the whole squad from players who don't play the way you want to play and don't play county cricket. Do you know what I mean? It's just at every step of the way, it's just, yes, you had reasons for doing things. Yes, you wanted to change the way things were done. You know, doing the same thing over and expecting a different result is the definition of madness. So they wanted to change everything, but curb it.
It's curb it. It's managing it, but it's also being smart. How many cricketers have you sort of commentated on, Manners, in your illustrious 400 Test match career, where you look at the difference between the good and the great are the ones that got to a point.
Can use the gearbox.
Use the gearbox. And use the gearbox is the one, it goes from 1 to 6 behind the ears, from left to right ear. And that's what Brendon McCullum keeps talking about. You know, the game's played in the top 2 inches. Well, it is played in the top 2 inches. But unfortunately, I keep coming back to that informal group, is that who is managing this point when you're talking exactly what you're right, 100% about the excess, is when we losing games from winning positions, when our batters are given 150, 200s away, when they just get over 3 figures, who is the one that is just helping that individual go from being very, very good to unbelievably great? And that, for me, is what I think Brendon McCullum's not. And that's why I said at the end of the Ashes, and especially now with the informal bit, where is the accountability going to come from? Because in isolation of a debacle, we haven't made any changes. We've got a coach who's never going to change. We've got a selector who's left. What are we learning? Are we learning that everything's going right and we've just made a mistake and we'll go on the same road and everything will be all right when we get to the end of the summer, because we're playing in England and we should be beating New Zealand 3-0. We should be beating Pakistan at home and everything's rosy again? Like what I've just heard off the back of beating the bang average white ball Sri Lankan side at home in their back garden, which, I mean, couldn't play spin. They had one player who didn't come in until the 3rd Test match, a 3rd ODI, who couldn't play a spin out of Adil Rashid's hand, and they could only play everybody else played them off the pitch. And we finished semi-final of a World Cup, which was probably our ceiling level anyway. The other little concerns that I've got, and why I was saying what I was saying at the end of the Ashes. So have I learned a great deal of what's been said? Not really.
Okay, there's never a good time to change a coach, but, you know, there are times that are worse than others. And it is interesting. I mean, let's say England have a so-so summer, you know, like maybe a couple of 2-1 wins. I mean, I agree with you. They should beat New Zealand and they should beat Pakistan. But they then go to South Africa, who are a pretty good Test team, actually. and South Africa could win that. I mean, they are defending Test champions, although they've got, I still think, very brittle batting. But anyway, if they lose in South Africa and change the coach, then his first series will be the Ashes in 2027. And if they change the coach after the Ashes, then the new coach starts off with an away Test tour of India. So, well, I guess what I'm saying is, if they're going to make a change, it has to be either between New Zealand and Pakistan or after Pakistan. I mean, if he's on a, if there is a length of rope, I don't think it should be longer than this summer.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it should be longer than this summer. Part of me wants him to go till the end of the Ashes, no matter what, because this is what we signed up for. Do we have enough money to get rid? That's another argument that people are having.
Harmy, I don't buy that. Honestly,
I was just about to say, I don't buy that. I think if
it's £1 million, there's 500 million in the bank.
I was just about to say, we've just sold 100 for 500 million. But there are people thinking it could be financial. I don't think it is financial. And I think to put the counter argument to the financial part, if I thought it was a financial thing, you've got comfortably people within the setup to carry on against New Zealand at home, Pakistan at home, South Africa away, with the likes of Marcus Trescothick, with the likes of Andrew Flintoff. You could have Marcus Trescothick as head coach till the end of the summer and then reevaluate where you go from there. And it would cost you a little bit more money, but not a great deal of money. From a financial point of view, I didn't buy that for 1 minute. I think, like Rob said, it would be very, very easy to get to to sack him, and then you pay them the money, off you go, you bring somebody else in. That would be the easy option. In their eyes, they've gone down the hard route, which is, we believe in this process, but I just think there's a little few bumps in this road of that process, which I think need to change. And unfortunately, I'm looking forward to seeing where Brendon is in that change mentality. How do they do this from now on? It's going to be interesting. But part of me now, like what I said at the start, man, I want to see this film end. I really do. I want to see the film end, and I really want Brendon McCullum to win the Ashes and finish that way, because there has been a lot of positivity out of this. But I just think that off the back of what happened in Australia, I still think there's more bumps to come, which I think navigating them, I think are going to be more difficult for Keane Thompson and for Gould.
Richard Gould did say, let's not forget the good that was done. Let's not forget.
Yeah.
And do you know what, Harmy? I am absolutely proud to say that I was a total convert and disciple of Bazball for a whole year. I mean, as I said, England had won 1 out of 17, and suddenly, they were winning and playing incredible cricket. So let's not forget that. Just on the cornerstone principles of Brendon McCullum's coaching philosophy: slimmed down backroom team, very few specialist coaches, don't play meaningless warm-up games. There was a fourth, you'll remember what it is, but for me, 4 sort of cornerstone principles have now been changed, and or at least significantly adapted, if not compromised. And Brendon McCullum's never particularly struck me as being a big swallower of pride, but I think either he's grinding his teeth at night or he has swallowed a bit of pride.
Well, we haven't heard from him, have we? So we don't know. And that's the thing. You're right. The cornerstones of the way Brendon McCullum came into the job. And you're right, 100% right. And I'd like to think I've tried to, in all my negativity, I've tried to sort of be thankful of where we've come from.
And you've given him the benefit of the doubt.
We've given him the benefit of the doubt. Of course we have. And I like I said before, am I happy that he's staying? I'm intrigued by what's going to happen. I think that's what's making me happy that he stayed, because but the cornerstones, like you say, of what's made Brendon McCullum successful with England in the initial, up until the last 6 months, they're going to be questioned now. And he doesn't strike me to go with authority that much. And Keezy's not, he's not the sort of disciplinarian that probably Andrew Strauss would be and Ashley Giles would be. But I think that's a positive, dealing with a coach like Brendon. And that's why I think it's a good thing that Rob is in the position that he's in. But now if you're going to have to put layers in, because above is saying, well, we need to prepare better. We need more this, we need more that, we need more the other, that have been clearly left wanting over the course of the last 12 months, then can Brendon, in all good conscience, change with that? So having a bowling coach in there that's not his, having another sort of layer of selection that's going to make it more difficult for him to get the way he wants it to coach, if you know what I mean. And I think that's going to be a challenge, I think, because I'm not sure him and Ben ended Australia on great terms. They'll never, ever fall out, I don't think. I think professionally, I think it's a bit strained. And I think because of that, I think bringing somebody in the middle might make it more challenging for Brendon to do the job the way he has been doing. And then how does then Brendon react to that? It sounds as though I'm throwing everything on Brendon McCullum here. I'm trying not to. I'm trying to see how Brendon will be thinking at this moment in time, because a lot of it is on his shoulders. But like I said before, he is the coach. He is the driver. He's the man that sets everything up from a plan point of view, the dressing room manner, discipline, everything. It is at his door. But if we are now going to start chucking stones at him and put things in it and make him harder to do his job, we might have been better sacking him. So we have to respect the fact that he's been given it till the end of 2027. And I hope England supporters, and I am the biggest one that's had a go at him, I'll be the first person to support him. First test match comes New Zealand. In the last test match of the summer, I'll be wanting England to win. We want Brendon McCullum to do well. I want Ben Stokes to do well. And I want the England cricket team to do well. But this is my opinion inside my job, that I think the bumps in the road that are coming actually could be a little bit more bumpier than what he's had leaving Australia.
Harmy, I just want to finish this section by, again, reminding people that you and I have always said that when it comes to Brendon McCullum and most other subjects, actually, that we are not adamant that we're right. We've both left the door open to doubt. I want to say that I think Brendon McCullum has a very high EQ. I think he's probably got a very high IQ as well. I think he's a smart man. And it may be that I'm entirely wrong in saying that, he's had to swallow a bit of pride. He might well be going, do you know what? I did make mistakes. And I've revisited my coaching philosophy, and I don't think that it was right. I mean, I doubt that. I doubt that he is doing that. But but I'm definitely leaving the door open. I mean, I think he's a smarter man than me, and he has had great success. So there's just that possibility, Harmy, that he'll go, you know what? Yeah, actually, I can't do everything myself. I do need some help, and this is the best thing for England.